guys, and welcome back to another video. It's Ibrahim Muslim, and today I'm back with another video on Hackintosh. So this is the part 4 of our OpenCore videos, and in this learning guide I will tell you how to move to OpenCores if you are currently using Clover Configurator. People are also asking me to make an bootable, how to make installer USB with OpenCore to install macOS, Catalina or the Big Sur, and I will shortly get to it as well. But in this video I will be making a complete config.plst and will be providing different text and files that you will need to run on a Z370 and Z390 chipset. So keep that in mind, and I will also provide links in the description and a complete description to how to set all the older chipsets, including the first gen, second gen, third gen, which is H87, 97, Z97, 100 series, 200 series, and 300 series of Intel motherboard, also the AMD Ryzen series. So stay tuned guys, and I hope I will be able to teach you well. So let's start our OpenCore learning tutorial part 4. So let's open the OpenCore first, and then let's open Clover Configurator. Okay, I have more than one LCD, so I might be twisting my neck a bit. Skip this version. Okay, so it says an update is available, and okay, we will do so. Let's see if Clover Configurator have any updates. No. And okay, so let's the update download, and we were basically on the NVRAM section of our OpenCore, and I will mount my drive. So OpenCore also releases updates on Monday in the first week of every month, so you can kind of remember that and wait for updates. And it's really important and beneficial that if you keep upgrading your OpenCore bootloader, because it's in the early stages and there comes a lot of changes with every update. So that would be really great if you keep that in mind. So I think we were here in NVRAM, and I was explaining you that 80 GB mode. Yep, I think, and I was comparing the NVRAM with the boot config. Let's load a default one, and I was comparing the boot with NVRAM. So in the last video I explained what boot arguments are and how they are meant in Clover Configurator, and also how they differ in OpenCore itself, and how OpenCore implements the boot arguments into the NVRAM, which directly affects the motherboard. But on the other hand, Clover Configurator uses an emulated NVRAM or a fake NVRAM just to provide the data to the Mac OS, but OpenCore basically writes the data right into the motherboard, and from the motherboard the Mac OS is capable of taking it out. And all the boot arguments are also affected to the Windows if you apply them, because it's written in the NVRAM, and you can directly change the boot sequence of the motherboard right from the OpenCore, right from macOS itself, and it will change the boot sequence from the motherboard. And it's in Mac it's called bless settings, and these are these settings. And if you want to restart into another operating system, you can do so if you're using OpenCore, because this way Mac will tell the motherboard that the boot drive is changed, and that will take effect. So let's move to platform info. This is one of the most important and the largest section of both Clover Configurator and OpenCore Configurator. What are different SMBIOSes and how they basically affect your system? So the first thing you have to understand is Apple make a very specific amounts and very specific models of their computers. So there are a lot of different Mac models, but they basically have some kind of a lineage or some kind of generation they belong to. So there are basically 4 to 5 different lineages of Mac computers. Number one is Mac Minis. They are the smallest portable Mac computers which don't have a display and comes in pretty low end market, and they are basically for offices and for light uses. Excluding the latest one, it's kind of a powerful, but not that much, or not compared to what other devices can support. Then come the very famous and popular MacBooks. So there are three different models in MacBooks. One is MacBook Pro, which is the elite class of MacBooks, and expensive MacBook, and all the top end stuff related to laptops come to the MacBook Pro, like Retina display, i9 9900Ks, 16 or 64 gigabits of memory, super strong graphic card like AMD RX 5700 XT, which comes in 2020 MacBook, and a lot of different features which are Mac Pro related comes to the Mac Pro lineage. And if you have a system which matches that kind of a hardware, you have to select it. And if you are on a mobile device like a laptop, you have to basically select that one. So it basically helps the macOS understand the environment you are going to run the macOS inside. So it basically helps the macOS understand what kind of a hardware you will be using, and how and what different stuff it needs to load for macOS. It needs to load into the kernel for a better, faster, optimized macOS environment. Then comes the iMacs. So after MacBook Pros, there are MacBook Airs and the simple MacBooks that come in, like MacBook 2015 something something, which are like the lowest end laptop machines you can get from Apple compared to MacBook Airs and MacBook Pro. MacBook Airs are very light machines, are designed for students who just have to use Office and Pages and different documentation stuff, and no hardcore stuff like video editing or audio editing. And MacBook Airs mostly has Intel mobile processors, then Intel different kind of Intel low-end, highly energy efficient processors, and they don't used to have a Pro Retina display. So if you have a very low-end laptop, you can kind of fit into a MacBook Air space. Then comes the MacBook Simple one. These are Intel Atom machines, and they are like very, very rare. We have a lot of different listing going on here, in which Clover and the OpenCore provide a lot of different support. So right now you can see we are here in iMac, and there are MacBook Airs, and you can see the processor details are given next to it. So if you have a processor similar to that and you are on a mobile machine, you can probably go for that, and it will support and it will increase the compatibility of macOS running on it. After MacBooks, there comes the iMacs. iMacs are the most famous machines of Apple, and it's kind of a main slogan machine of Apple. So iMacs have a lot of variety, and iMacs started like back in 2009. So they have a lot of different support. So iMac started with Intel, I think, back in 2008 or 2009, and from that time period till now, they're using Intel processors. And iMac have almost all series or all generations of Intel CPUs embedded in them. So if you have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or till the 10th generation of Intel CPU, Intel Core i CPU, and you are on a desktop, then it is highly recommended that you go with iMac series. So if you're using AMD 500, 400 series, or the R9s and R7 graphic cards, then it is highly recommended that you go with iMac series. So there are 2 or 3 main iMac series which are very highly compatible with most of the Hackintoshes. If you are on 4th generation of Intel motherboard and Intel processor, it is highly recommended you go with iMac 14,2. And if you're on 5th, 6th generation, if you're on 5th generation, it's still recommended you go with iMac 14,2. And if you're on 7th, 8th, 9th generation, you can go with iMac 18,1. The latest one being 19,1 with i9 9900K is kind of a more compatible with 9th generation, but still if you are on iMac 18,1, that will work. The 9th generation processor will load automatically. If you're using Vega GPU, AMD's Vega series, AMD Professional series, Vega series, or W5700 GPU, or if you're using the latest AMD 5000 series, 5500, 5600, 5700, or 5700 XT series of graphic card, it is highly recommended that you go with either iMac Pro 1,1 or Mac Pro 7,1. So iMac Pro 1,1 is highly compatible with a lot of Vega series of graphic card and provides a lot of support, and it's very helpful. But in Catalina, I was not able to get hardware acceleration if I used iMac Pro 1,1 with my Vega 64. So I then switched to Mac Pro 7,1, and it provided a great amount of compatibility, and my hardware acceleration and a lot of different optimization was working pretty well. So I personally recommend Mac Pro 7,1. It's latest and it is more open to the users. So if in future some other PCI stuff came out, I think Mac Pro 7,1 will provide better PCI compatibility compared to iMac Pro. So Mac Pro is the choice I would like you to go if you're having a Vega or AMD 5700 series graphic card. So this was the basic about SMBIOS and how SMBIOS basically affect. SMBIOS is what you can say a preview of your hardware that is given to Mac OS, because in reality Mac OS does not know that any other hardware exists except of these Apple made hardware. If you have to install Mac OS, you have to tell Mac OS which Mac machine basically you're using, and if you will not spoof it, if you not fake it properly, the Mac OS will not understand, and it will basically give you crashes, kernel panics, and a lot of different issues. One other thing which is really important, that you cannot boot into a Mac OS version below Mac OS Catalina if you're on Mac Pro 7.1, because when Mac Pro 7 came out, the latest Mac came out, the Apple was using the Catalina OS, so they did not make any hardware support on Mojave. So they don't support Mojave on Mac 7.1. So if you want to use a Mac OS which is older, then you have to go to a device which is older and had original Apple support with it. If I use Mac Pro 7.1 and boot into Mojave, it will simply give me an error by saying that your hardware machine is not designed for this Mac OS version, or Mac OS version is not supported on your machine, and it won't boot. So then if you are using a Vega, I will recommend you go with iMac Pro. And if you're on Intel generation, then you have to use a series with a compatible macOS support. Okay, that's been a very detailed information about SMBIOS and how they work. So let me tell you a bit more about how the macOS itself read the SMBIOS. So with product name and family name, it is the product name which the macOS reads and specify what it's going to load. The product name and the BIOS, which is written here. If you are having a kernel panic, and if you selected a wrong SMBIOS and you want to boot into the macOS and your system isn't allowing you, you have to go to Clover and just change it to iMac Pro 11, which will make the Mac OS think that it's on iMac 11, and you have to just change 1 and add I here. So this way, just by fixing this in Clover Bootloader, when you are booting into the Mac OS, in the boot menu, you can fix it. You have to change these two options and the Mac will boot after that. But that is not available with OpenCore, because OpenCore uses the NVRAM, and all the detail is sent through NVRAM, and you cannot edit NVRAM on the run. So you're technically kind of stuck in, but I think in future they will provide support to change the SMBIOS or the config.plst on the runtime when you are inside the OpenCore bootloader. And then here we have like little bit of options, which is memory channel support, count support. It provides no great effect on the macOS or the performance. It's just kind of increasing the information that is provided to the macOS, and that information will be basically described here. That's it. Okay, if we go back, and here we have a little bit of more detail. Data Hub generic basically adds all the information that you provide into the SMBIOS. It writes that details into the NVRAM, and it uses the config.plst, and it uses the OpenCore runtime libraries to do so. And it's kind of helpful if you do so, but I would recommend you, if you are like new to OpenCore, then you just provide the SMBIOS detail here and don't mess it up right now, because it does not basically increase or decrease any performance. So this was what you can say is a hella description about NVRAM, SMBIOS, and how OpenCore and Clover Configurator used to deal with SMBIOSes and what different SMBIOSes do. The video is gone really long, and I will try to keep it short. So in the next video, I will explain you the system parameters on Clover Configurator and the UEFI, different feature we still have to discover in OpenCore, and what we will basically be doing. In the end of the next video, you will be completely able to create a config.plst on OpenCore and OpenCore file bootloader for 8 and 9 generation of Intel motherboard. Then we will continue providing support for older CPUs, and with the latest Comet Lake CPU. Once I get the hand on Comet Lake, I will be making a video on that as well. So stay tuned for this video, guys, and I hope you like the videos. I hope I'm properly describing every detail that I could, And if you still need any support query, let me know in the comment section below. I'm also available on Patreon. It will be really great if you support me on Patreon and let me do this work and support me to give this passion of mine some time, because it's really hard otherwise. So that's all for this video, guys. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. And until the very next video, please take care. Allah Hafiz.